here at the Hummingbirds Off the Deep End at the Jagermeister Workbench. Welcome back to your place where you do your best work, Dave.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So let's talk about redfish this week.
Well, you know, there's 3 different ways we chase them around this state. Maybe more, but 3 primary ways. One way I went with Jeffrey Page not too long ago, and we were out on, you know, just cruising around the bay there, looking for fish that we would spook, and we were looking for
rumble.
Exactly, make them get up and start to move around. And there had been one school that had been out there that he had been tracking for a couple of days, and when we finally found it, we pretty much did what you normally do when you're chasing redfish in the run. Well, you have to position the boat to try to get out in front of them, and then you start throwing things that you can throw a long way. You want to make long casts to get out in front of that moving school, and it's kind of tricky because if you get out too far in front of a school of moving redfish like that, then you end up catching the little yellow jacks and hardtails and stuff that run. Usually when you get a big school of redfish, there'll be other fish around it, sometimes bluefish, you know, a lot of trash fish that'll be in the front. So what you do is you're going to make a long cast. You use, you know, big top water plugs like those big X-Wraps or a big chug bug or any kind of big mirror lure, you know, something that you can throw a long way and get way out in front of those moving fish. Again, you don't want to get out too far. You get out too far, you get the bluefish and the jack bite. And if you get behind them, nobody turns around to come back and get stuff. Yeah. Usually, if your cast falls short, you got to reel it up and get it back again. Now, we also have a big fishery here in the fall. On the East Coast, when all the fish start moving towards the inlets, they're starting to do their spawning deal. And so, especially up around Jacksonville, that Don Dingman fella up there, they'll get out in 35, 40 feet of water in the channel, where, you know, at the end of the Jacksonville River, and they'll start looking for marks. And once they start seeing fish marked up on the bottom, they'll toss an anchor out and they'll start going deep. And, you know, if you put a big quarter of a crab on a nice circle hook, maybe put a big pound of bank sinker in front of a circle hook with a big a whole quarter of a blue crab, lower it all the way to the bottom right in front of those schools fish, and pretty soon one's going to come up and grab it. Now, there are going to be a lot of big fish, you know, way outside the slot. They're between 25 and 50 pounds. You know, these are big, you know, so you want to use real heavy gear, not the kind of light spinning gear that you're going to use on the flats.
Now, what other ways do you guys catch them? A
lot of times we're out poling very softly in the Mosquito Lagoon or something. We're stalking individual fish, and that's when, you know, we start using, you know, 20-pound braid, jerk baits, you know, real light fluorocarbon, lighter stuff. We're fishing for fish that are, you know, between 8 and 25, 30 pounds tops usually, and we're trying to catch these fish when they're up in the shallow water. So you can't be real noisy. You know, they're very spooky when they get up in the shallower water, so you got to be a little bit more quiet. Again, you need to make long casts. That's why you use the braid and the 20-pound fluorocarbon leader, or even if you can't use the fluorocarbon. Sometimes when you try to tie the fluorocarbon to the braid, you can it's hard to tie the fluorocarbon, so you can just use regular monofilament. But I like to use any sort of weedless jerk bait, especially when you're in places where there's a lot of grass. If I'm using something other than a weedless bait, like even a jig-headed bait, sometimes I have a problem where I'll bury it in the grass before the fish can get it. And, you know, when you're hung up in the grass, that's not going to be a good thing. So if you can get away without the weight and can still make a long cast with a weedless bait with no weight on it, you're going to be a little better off.